Do you know what? I think I'd give up. According to Games Industry Biz, Borderlands 3 is, and I quote, the biggest UK boxed launch of 2019. That's boxed launch, not botched launch. It seems they haven't botched it despite all their attempts to do so. And it's outsold Days Gone, which came out in April. And it's also outsold Gears 5, which came out around about the same time. Gears 5 came out last week. And apparently it's outsold Gears 5 by a factor of something like 4-1. Now, as I say, this is just physical. And so, you have to factor in that things have changed. And Games Industry Biz say themselves that Borderlands 2 actually sold double what Borderlands 3 has sold in physical sales. And so it might be interesting to see what the digital sales are, because I would imagine that they're a lot higher still. So despite everything, Borderlands 3 seems to be selling extremely well. There are a couple of things to take into account here, though. Obviously, we've had the Epic Store debacle and the fact that Borderlands 3 has become an Epic Store exclusive. I've actually seen people saying that they're not buying it on the Epic Store, so they're not buying it on PC because that would be the only way they could get it. So they've actually gone and bought it on the PlayStation or the Xbox instead. And I don't have any figures for this, but it could be that skewed the physical sales slightly, because maybe if they're buying it on the Xbox or the PlayStation, they may have bought it on a physical format, on disc, as opposed to buying it digitally on the Epic Store. The other thing that might skew the figures somewhat in relation to Gears 5 is that obviously, as Games Industry Biz themselves are saying, Gears 5 came out day one on Game Pass. And, if you can get it on Game Pass and you've already got Game Pass, why would you go out and buy it? Certainly, why would you go out and buy it physically? Maybe later down the line, you might pick up a physical copy. That's what I do. I get it on Game Pass, and then when it comes down in price significantly, I'll go and buy the physical copy. So that's going to skew Gears 5's physical sales. And, it's going to suppress them a lot. So it's no surprise, really, that Borderlands 3 has outsold Gears physically, because, as I say, you would just expect it as a result of Game Pass. And that may suggest that Game Pass is selling very well. And from the figures that have come out, it seems that Game Pass is doing excellently. But, we're not really comparing Gears 5 and Borderlands 3 here. What I'm more interested in is the fact that Borderlands 3 has had, all sorts of shenanigans before, during, and after release. And, that's what I find quite depressing, because a lot of the things that they've got up to have been, pretty unforgivable. And yet it seems that the game has not been affected by that at all. We've got the Randy Pitchford assault claims. We've got Randy Pitchford saying that Troy Baker didn't want to reprise his role in Borderlands 3, and Troy Baker saying, he wasn't even asked. The assault claims, David Eddings, who was the Claptrap actor, voice actor, claims to have been assaulted by Pitchford. Whether that was the case or not is open to debate, but, these are not good stories, and it paints a picture of Pitchford as not being a particularly good CEO. Then we've got the fact that he was caught red-handed, leaving porn lying around, alongside actual company documents. So we had porn and company documents in the same... it's all a bit seedy and a bit dodgy. And then obviously we've got the no microtransactions bollocks, which he came out with. And I'm not one of those who's going to be too hard on him on that. I think he was talking bollocks, but I don't think he was necessarily trying to, I don't think he was trying to fool people. Let's put it that way. I think he was just confused and then got annoyed when people pointed out the fact that he was an idiot. And as I say, I've already mentioned the Epic Store exclusive. And then the worst one of the lot almost for me was the way 2K went after Submato, the YouTuber. And he no longer exists on YouTube anymore because they destroyed his channel just because he leaked some information. And that plays into the fact that they, messed around with the review copies as well. And only a few outlets got review copies before the game came out. So not many people were able to review it. And apparently, the reviewers were told to, take into account that it was a preview copy, that it was an advanced copy, and that it wasn't going to be the same as the final release. So what's the point putting it out there? What would be the point? You can't review it properly if that's the case. And so people were saying, oh, well, we have to wait and see what the actual real game's like. And so then the real game came out and it seems to be extremely buggy because, well, as some people have suggested, maybe the reason they were, limiting the number of people who could review the game is because they knew it was buggy. Because if we now go to Metacritic, and this is the Metacritic for PC, these are the user scores. So these are actual people who've bought and played the game. And you can see here, 1080 Ti and can't run normal frames. It micro stutters all the time. Game is unacceptably buggy. I'm not one of those die-hard fans who has a tendency to get really defensive when people criticize anything about Borderlands, but that ended... Sorry, I am one of those. But that ended last night when I powered it on and discovered there is no vertical split screen. I can't read anything on the screen unless I'm a foot from the screen. I can barely see what's going on no matter what I do. Not worth the money at all. Finish your games before you release them. And so on and so forth. On the surface, this game makes a really good impression until you start playing it. Horrible input delay plus frame drops make Borderlands 3 nearly unenjoyable and possibly unplayable. And then if we go to the PlayStation 4 reviews, and there are some positive reviews. You can see here, best Borderlands yet, and so on. But this one here got me. If you have a regular PS4, not Pro, forget about buying this game. 20 to 22 frames per second. It's unplayable. I wish I knew before spending $70. I mean, that's unacceptable in this day and age to release a game running at 20 to 22 frames per second. It's just ridiculous. Long-time fan of the series, bought for co-op, unplayable due to tiny text, which we've heard before on the PC version. Lack of vertical option, vertical split screen. If you're looking forward to play couch co-op with friends, do not buy this until a patch comes out. So it's released in a really broken state. And there are some positive user reviews here, but overall it's 5.2. And then if we go to Xbox, again, a couple of favourable ones, great game, great graphics, and classic Borderlands gameplay. Yes, it has some issues like frame rate dropping, so even they're saying there are problems. Glitchy to start, also had to rearrange furniture to sit closer to TV since font is unreadable. I mean, since when do you put out a game where you can't actually read what the bloody hell's going on the screen? That's ridiculous. Game is unplayable without vertical split screen. How was this overlooked? That's a minor thing for me. A lot of people talking about that, but I don't see it's a huge deal. Bought 2 copies of this game so my wife and I could play together on different TVs. Just like every other game in the series, turns out local LAN is not possible. Only split screen, which is unplayable. The only way to play together is to get 2 copies of Xbox Live, and then the lag and disconnects are unbearable. Disappointment after disappointment. Yeah. So, as you can see, I mean, there are some positives, as I say, and you can read them for yourself if you go to Metacritic. But 4.8. So 4.8, 5.2 for PlayStation, and 5.2 for PC. So I would suggest you probably You should take into account that some people are really annoyed that it's not gone to the Epic Store, that it has gone to the Epic Store. But even so, taking that into account, there are some obvious problems with the game. I note that Jim Sterling said that the game actually is quite playable and the microtransactions aren't too egregious. So Randy Pitchford wasn't being entirely dishonest. I don't think he was being dishonest at all, as I said before. But he was saying that the microtransactions wouldn't be there. Well, there are some apparently, but they're not too bad. So that's not too bad. It looks like the game is a bit of a mess, though, and it definitely needs patching. And when you factor in all the other stuff, especially the way they treat fans, Sup Matto, and the way they did the review copies to, I don't know whether they were trying to pull the wool over people's eyes. And one other little thing that I have to put in here, I saw it advertised on the side of a bus stop. And in the UK, I've long said that any film I see that advertised on the side of a bus stop probably isn't worth watching, because every time I've gone to watch a film that has been advertised on the side of a bus or the side of a bus stop, it's turned out to be a load of crap. And I saw this advertised on the side of a bus stop, so that set the alarms ringing for me as well. So I don't know. I mean, I'm a bit disappointed with the way this game has been hyped, the way it's been released, all the, shenanigans that have gone on. And if the game had been great, then, I can understand people letting that go, but it is buggy as well. So I don't know. It just seems odd that it's selling so well despite all the problems on every level, both from the companies. I mean, 2K and what they've done with NBA 2K20. At least they didn't do that with this game. It's a game that could have been full of microtransactions and loot boxes and all the rest of it and gambling mechanics, but apparently it's not. So that's not too bad, and I saw Jim Sterling saying that's one aspect of the game that wasn't too bad. But all the rest of it, everything from the Randy Pitchford stuff, assault claims, porn, all that nonsense, through to the 2K crap, the way they treated Sup Matto, the nonsense with the reviews, just puts me off the game. And it does surprise me that other people haven't been put off more, especially by some of the problems with the gameplay, the way the game is actually running. But that's the way I feel about it. I don't know what you think. You may disagree with me. And if you do, that's fine. Come and correct me and say why I'm wrong to say this. And we can talk about it. But yeah, that's the way I feel about it. I think this game's sales shouldn't really be where they are, given the state it's in and given all the other nonsense surrounding it as well. Right, anyway, as I say, that's me done. And I will speak to you guys in the next one. Bye.